So I figured I'd start off, hopefully, what is our last video here, not by standing in front of the camera, but by showing you what we've been up to. As you can see, the new engine is in the lab rat. I've even started getting some of the accessories put back on it and gathering up new parts for it. Now, we've got a ton of new parts going on here. I figured as long as we're doing all this work, taking it all apart, might as well go through and really fix everything. Got new radiator, whole new cooling system, in fact, including the heater core and all the air conditioning stuff. When I got this truck, the AC didn't work. The only thing that I'm not replacing is the compressor right now, because I don't know if it's good or not. If it's not, I'll go ahead and replace it, but replacing all the other stuff while it's out, because I had to take all the parts out anyway. But you'll notice we don't have our engine plate on this side just yet. We will be putting one on. We are doing some test fitting with this shiny new header, which is actually a very old header. This is an old Borla that's no longer in production. We managed to get it from Richard at G&G Auto up in Bakersfield. He had it sitting around and was kind enough to let us have it. This is one of the only smog legal, California smog legal headers for the Renix era Cherokee and Comanche. So we're going to be totally legit running this. The plan with the motor is that it should pass smog just fine, be totally California legal, no problems there. This is pretty much a bolt-in upgrade. In addition to the header, come over here, we got our new throttle body. You can see our nasty old scummy one next to our new honed out 60mm version that we got from Mean Lemons. So looking forward to getting a little breathing upgrade on this thing. Now if we walk down, you can see all the other parts we've collected, all still in the boxes. I mean, we got everything from evaporator, radiator, all new AC hoses. We got, what else is in here? We got silicone radiator hoses, gaskets, what else? Filters, power steering pump, plus all our old parts we've been piling in here. It's a nice part about having a pickup truck. You just stack everything in the bed while you're working on it. But anyway, you'll notice downpipes on the ground. That's the original stock one. There's actually a downpipe that came with the header over there. That may or may not be going on. We're going to be taking this thing over to my buddy Jim at Lions Exhaust in San Marcos, California. He's our go-to guy for anything exhaust. Over the years, I've brought him a ton of crazy difficult projects. He always manages to figure out how to get the pipes stuffed into some of the most awkward vehicles I could come up with for him. He always does an awesome job, so I'm going to go ahead and take this one over to him as well. This will be an easy job for him, but the exhaust that's on here is old, rotted out junk, and figured it's time to do it right. So soon enough, we're going to have this thing driving again, and I am really looking forward to it. shop helper here today. Say hi, Charlie. We got the whole crew in the shop today. Cal's working on getting the manifolds put on our beautiful new header. I think it's going to rub that stone, but just barely. It clears. Just barely. Just barely. So we already got the alternator on, the starter back there, the AC compressor's in place. I'm starting to hook up some of the wiring on this side. Hopefully get this thing all finished up today. Alright, well, after a bit of struggling, we got both the exhaust and intake manifold in there, which is not the funnest thing in the world because on the Jeep 4-liter, they both go in together. They share most of all the same bolts. You'll notice on these guys here, all the way across the top, and they're on the bottom as well, you can't see them. They use these conical Bellevue washers. That's there to compensate for any difference in height between the intake and exhaust manifolds. They kind of rock back and forth on the head of the bolt there, so if they're a little bit different, you won't have a leak. The really fun ones are down underneath there, especially with the header. It starts getting really tight, but we got them all on, and pretty soon here we'll be putting our shiny new Mean Lemons throttle body in there and new set of injectors. These are actually Ford injectors. Cal, remind me, how many pounds are these again?
24 pound.
These are 24 pound injectors. Technically I actually ordered the wrong ones. You'll notice the plug there is different from the standard Jeep plug. That's my fault. They do make this same plug with the same injector with the correct plug on it. But at this point, the easier solution is I just went on Amazon. They make adapters that plug in there and then plug right into the wiring harness. And gotta love Amazon. Today's Saturday, they'll be here Sunday. So we will have pretty much everything buttoned up today, hopefully. Alright, any of you guys with the early Jeeps should recognize this little guy on their fender well. I see questions about it online all the time asking what it is. It's a ballast resistor. It just reduces voltage. In this case, it's reducing the voltage to the fuel pump. They did that to make the fuel pump quieter. That's all it does, is make it quieter, and if anything actually reduces the life of the fuel pump. But I guess people were complaining that they could hear the fuel pump and that annoyed them. For pretty much any normal Jeeper, you don't care about that. I would go ahead and delete it. You see the two wires here that I spliced together? Those used to connect there. Now the fuel pump can run all the time. Don't have to worry about this thing burning out, which they do burn out frequently, and then it leaves you not running. So yeah, you can go ahead and ditch this thing. Alright, so we're getting to one of the more critical steps here for actually making this engine run, which is getting the distributor in place. Now you'll see here, we've already got it dropped down. We've been messing with it for a few minutes now. The key is you first got to rotate the engine to top dead center on the number 1 cylinder on the compression stroke. And then you're going to be lining up your rotor here just past the number 1 where it sparks. Now what we did is we set our cap on here, and if you look down at the distributor, we put a little Sharpie mark where number 1 is so that we didn't have to have the cap. You notice now we've got it lined up. Now the trick in doing that is you've got to get it on the right tooth of the camshaft, and you also have to get the oil pump drive engaged. So it takes a little bit of taking it off, rotating the oil pump, putting it back on to get everything lined up in the right spot. And also before we did this, we took a flathead screwdriver, put it in the drill, and spun up the oil pump to build up oil pressure and get the whole engine all oiled up and ready for that first start. So as long as we're doing all this work on the motor, we've got everything taken apart, I figured it was a good time to go ahead and replace all the transmission cooler lines, because the ones that were on here were pretty bent up and all out of shape and hanging down in places they probably shouldn't be. So I just went online, went on Rock Auto, ordered some replacements. Also ordered these guys. These are the fittings that go into the side of the transmission for the cooler lines. And these are a pretty common point of failure. They've just got these little plastic clips that go on the line. That's what keeps the line from popping out. And there's a couple of O-rings down inside the fitting there. What happens, these clips over time, they get hardened and brittle. They break, the line will pop out, and then you got a transmission line leak. You can usually find these guys actually just in the help section in your local parts store. Dorman makes them. There's probably some others that make them. Pretty easy to come by, and they're a really good idea to just keep 1 or 2 of them in your glove box, because this is one of those things that'll end your day on the trail or even on the road, and it's a really easy fix with a minimal number of tools. I mean, you can technically do this without any tools, so have one handy. These ones I actually had kicking around for that exact reason, and now we're going to go ahead and install them because they're better than the old crusty ones that are in there. Alright, moment of truth. Turn the key, Cal.
Oh, hook the battery back up.
Oh, well, it's not the moment of truth then. Alright, we now have a battery, we have a coil. I think everything's hooked up. Woohoo! Do we have oil pressure?
Yeah. We have no gauges, we have oil pressure.
Alright, confession time. That startup you just watched, that's not the first time the truck started. However, it is the first time the truck started with good oil pressure. The first time we started it, we got some oil pressure, but not nearly as much as we would have liked. So we ended up doing a bunch of things, trying to figure out what was going wrong. Russ from Bishop and Buehl, he was actually kind enough to come here to the shop to take a look at it himself. And he figured out what was wrong. And it was a really simple mistake, one that anyone could make who isn't experienced, which I'm not. I'm said all along, I'm not an engine builder, and this is a pretty rookie one. I'll show you exactly what happened. This here is an old motor out of Cal's Jeep. Now if you look behind the timing gear there, see that plug? That plug goes to an oil galley that feeds the lifters. Well, when we were assembling the motor, we forgot to put that plug in. And what was happening when we started it is all the extra oil was coming pumping out of that open hole and just dumping right back down into the oil pan. So we did get some oil pressure, but not enough to drive it and be comfortable with it. Thankfully, I didn't drive it, and yeah, we pulled the bearings, everything looked good. Man, this thing runs great now.